This is world champion Lisa Ryan. Also two-time Australian champ, Lisa is now preparing for the World Cup to be held at Gore Bay in New Zealand in November. The 23-year-old will compete in both the men's and women's open events.
The men will be very strong competition, but my main objective to go over there and to win the women's. The men's, in my eyes, is a warm-up to the women's event.
The conditions are going to be very different to the warmer waters of Australia's coast.
Where the competition is held, it's about an hour from Christchurch, and there's 3 river mouths coming down from the mountains in a space of 20 kilometres, so the competition water is going to be cold as well as the chill factor.
Lisa is taking with her 2 wave skiers from the Hunter Academy of Sport, whom she's been training for the past 12 months. 20-year-old Nick Boone is ranked 1 in the state in the open men's division, and Peter Conlon, aged 18, has made every junior final he's competed in this season. In New Zealand, Nick is entered in the open and junior events, while Peter will concentrate on the juniors. The World Cup starts November 14th. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Many people would like a little piece of Shoal Bay, but it's the sea that's been taking great bites out of the beach. With the tree line starting to cave into the waves and houses in danger, the Port Stephens Council started a sand reclamation program.
The beach is being lost, and the current dredging that's taking place is a very heavy program. The dredge work itself, the contract I think was $180,000. But without that beach being replenished, there's going to be, and it will always have to be replenished, but without that there's a very real danger that we could lose the road there.
Sand is being pumped from the port's entrance and deposited back on the beach.
It's essential that the work be done now. It's not something you can delay.
Council this evening is considering a recreation management plan for Shoal Bay. The proposal features an extension of paved promenade areas, car and boat parking places, launching ramps and a cafe to be built out over the public wharf. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
August 31st was a bad day for high-profile Sydney jockey Gavin Eads. The 27-year-old was unplaced on his Mount Temptone in the Wyong Cup. Just before this race, he was involved in an altercation with another rider, Aaron Kennedy, in the jockey's room. This incident resulted in a 3-month suspension on a misconduct charge. Eads fronted the board of the Newcastle, Hunter and Central Coast Racing Association in Newcastle today, appealing against the severity of the misconduct sentence. After 30 minutes deliberation, the board dismissed his appeal, a real blow to this year's Doncaster winner. It means he'll miss 2 more major races, the Caulfield and Melbourne Cups. In both of these, he was the likely rider of the favoured gelding, Fraternity. Eads is now considering appealing to the AJC, and if he's not happy with the outcome there, his final alternative is to take his case to the Racing Appeals Tribunal. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The main area of concern to firefighters in the Tyree district was brought under control this afternoon. The threat to the town of Lansdowne was minimised through efforts to the south in Brimban-Malinga. 60 members of the Tactical Response Group have been working alongside locals for 12-hour shifts at a time. The fire here began after a farmer's attempt to clear his land got out of control. The backburning has been carried out over 5 kilometres. From the forestry chopper today, the perimeters of the fire were clearly visible, the smoke rising through the treetops, leaving a trail of destruction.
Providing our lines hold, and we have every reason to believe that they will, we'll have the fire extinguished by this evening.
Local brigades are keeping a watchful eye over the fire spots while the state of emergency remains. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
Why don't we get back up this end again? You can hold it.
You got your blind doors covered.
One step forward, knees, elbows and knees, and next person come round the front. Yeah. Elbows and knees.
It's been hailed as a world-class venue for dumping rubbish. 20 years in the planning, the Summerhill Waste Facility is designed to take the city and its garbage into the next century. The $10 million project includes advanced technology for recycling, an education centre, bushwalks, even an exhibition hall.
High technology is the fact that there will be no leachate into the ground. The leachate will be totally controlled and it will be a totally controlled environment.
Council representatives signed a deal with Abbey Group, the company that will build the facility's infrastructure. It's expected the site will be ready for use by June next year.
But such a facility doesn't come cheap and users can expect a hike in dumping fees. Every load of rubbish will be measured, the new charge estimated at nearly $20 a tonne.
In view of the fact that we're going to reduce that waste stream by 50%, everyone's going to save money because they're not going to be spending the money they're spending now on getting rid of waste because most of it will be recycled.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Belong to this family, gathered in the name of Christ under the patronage.
No one can deny the students feel good about themselves being here.
Of this college.
Now, because people before us, Michael was in Year 12 last year. He's now the owner of Sid Fogg's buses.
Breakers General Manager Pat Clark was a shattered man this morning. After 10 months of trying, he finally had to admit defeat.
Well, as of this morning, the club has officially advised the Australian Soccer Federation that we will be withdrawing from the National Soccer League.
The club couldn't secure a buyer for the team or its stadium, but last week it had two prospective buyers. The New South Wales Soccer Federation put in a bid for the facilities which it would lease back to the club. But the Breakers lost that offer after the Northern Soccer Federation submitted a bid only to withdraw it on Monday. By getting the extra offer, you lost both.
That is the way it has panned out.
The state soccer body says it would never have pulled out of negotiations if the Northern bid wasn't made. But the Northern Soccer Federation says it had every right to make an offer and has questioned how serious the state body's bid was. But the General Manager of the New South Wales Soccer Federation, Peter Thorne, says the offer was real, but they sacrificed it to allow a local organisation to step in. Well, what role has politics had in the failure, do you think?
That's a difficult question to answer, and I think I'd leave that alone at this stage.
The state body stepped in this afternoon to make a last-ditch effort to save the club, but Pat Clark told administrators enough was enough. A consortium will try and buy the stadium and clubhouse and will attempt to resurrect the team within the next few years. But in the meantime, the club will lose all the talent it's worked so hard to develop, with the contracts of players like Robbie Middleby and Warren Spinks to be given to the Australian Soccer Federation.
Four years ago, Christy Skelton from Lake Macquarie could run along this road. Now she trains on it. In 1990, aged 10, Christy was involved in a car accident which left her a paraplegic. The former gymnast wasn't going to let that finish her sporting career. She swapped to athletics.
You just feel that you want it more, since how you got a disability. You just feel, because like sometimes people put you down and all that, so you just feel that you want it more, and that gives you more determination to go out and do what you want.
Now she's winning everything she enters. Competing at the National Senior Wheelchair Games in April this year, Christy won 3 gold medals in the shot, discus and javelin. Just 2 weeks ago at the Combined High Schools Carnival in Sydney, the Year 8 Waratah High student achieved her best yet, taking gold in the 100 and 200 metre track races, setting national records in both sprinting events as well as in the javelin. When you're out there competing, you're about to throw the javelin or you're waiting for the gun to go off in the 100 metre sprint, what's going through your mind?
Win. Just win. Just do your best and make sure your strokes are right in your chair and all that sort of thing.
Christy's goal is to represent Australia at the 96 Paralympics in Atlanta. And if determination has anything to do with it, she's a certainty. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
When Tom Thompson was studying in the late 1940s, greater emphasis was given to drawing skills. In the 60s, as a teacher, he fostered those skills in student Bruce Rowland, and now the work of both pupil and master is on show.
These two artists have stopped when their intention was realised. They haven't overpainted the work, they haven't overdrawn the work. The good drawing skills are there as a solid scaffolding for the paintings, but they haven't overdone it.
Balance is also a feature of this drawing, created by Tom in 1987 when he lived in Paris with only a brick wall for a view.
He has balanced areas that are predominantly dark against areas that are quite light. The girl has one stocking on because it's an essential part of the design. There's attempts at humour and very successful attempts at humour too, where real life situations are captured.
This showcase of finely tuned drawing skill continues until October the 16th.
It's been like this for the last 30 years. Barry Davis has fielded at gallops, harness and greyhound meetings in the Hunter, but his exclusive domain has been at Beaumont Park. Every Saturday, Barry has played the punting game, but at 68, he says it's time to go.
Well, I'm getting a bit long in the tooth, and it's not what it used to be. The recession has made inroads into bookmaking, the competition with TAB and PubTab, Sky Channel and whatever.
Just a few years ago, Barry says there were more than a dozen bookmakers fielding on the Beaumont Park dogs. They've now dwindled to half that number. But sticking by Barry through good and bad has been his loyal staff. Neville Smith for 20 years, Mark Lydiard for 10, both praising the boss on his last day.
He's never had a crossword with a punter that I know of in 20 years. And I think any bookmaker that can do that, that's a credit to him.
I've been with Barry for probably 10 years now, and said he's been a tremendous person to work for, and it's sad for all of us, I suppose. It's the end of a bit of an era.
Barry will pursue his hobby of wood turning, but as for the dollars he's turned over on the stand in 30 years, like a true country bookie, Barry hedged his bets.
I didn't get rich at the game, but it's been helpful.
Newcastle started this morning at 2 for 40. New South Wales Country Cricketer of the Year Phil Stambridge hit a smart 60, Ross also in the runs. But it was a fine partnership between keeper Brown and all-rounder David Smith that kept the locals in the race against the Tasmanians. The tail kept wagging the Tasmanians, frustrated by some close decisions. Smith went on to get his half-century before Brown was bowled by Robinson for 31. Newcastle declared at 9 for 274, 91 behind. Tasmania lost 1 for 58 in the last 90 minutes. A result seems likely tomorrow. And selectors have named Newcastle's one-day side to play Tasmania on Friday, with 5 changes from the side playing in the 3-day match. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Matthew Johns and Tony Butterfield were today preparing for tomorrow's limited overs match, and given the speedsters on show, may need more than a suit of armour. Jack Newton's team will include former Test paceman Gary Gilmore, Jeff Thompson, Jeff Lawson, Len Pascoe and spinner Robert Holland.
It's a bit of a worry. They'd give the Pakistanis a bit of a run for their money at the moment, but we're not perturbed. We've put in one training session this week, and the boys are quietly confident that we could probably come away with the match.
Also this weekend, the Kanga Cup Masters Soccer Tournament will be played at Austral Park, featuring Edgeworth's 1978-79 undefeated side and former international Ray Bartz. In surfing, the Still City Malibu Challenge will be staged at South Bar Beach on Saturday and Sunday, with $10,000 prize money on offer, attracting 140 entrants. And finally, Speedway returns to the Newcastle Motordrome tomorrow night, with the first of 35 meetings for this season, which will include 7 national and international events.
dead cub has already been found. The Native Animal Trust is calling for public help to scour the bush tomorrow and over the weekend, looking for koalas.
Nature's fury came to Wellalong in flames and heat, only months after shaking the town with an earthquake. The response was just as determined, residents hosing down houses as the fire became too close for comfort. Neighbouring Pelton and Paxton were also surrounded by flames. 500 firefighters from all parts of the state worked as one to fight off the fiery invader. More than 30 people were forced to evacuate as a 100km/h westerly whipped along the flames. 3 roads were cut as crews brought in tractors and dozers to turn the fire on itself. The tactic worked, with dying winds helping crews contain most of the fires by early morning. Night was replaced by the charred earth of the aftermath. 20 square kilometres had been blackened in less than 24 hours.
No one hurt and no one injured. That's the only thing that matters. We've had a few people with smoke inhalation, but they're out of hospital.
The only property damage was this burnt-out room of an Wellalong home, neighbours saving the rest of the building. Most blazes are under control, but firefighters say the danger period isn't over. Strong winds are expected tomorrow, which could fan whole new fronts of fire. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Three tow trucks raised the vehicle from its submerged parking spot. It's believed the 53-year-old driver lost control of the vehicle after it caught alight. The man was taken to hospital as a precaution but later released. This afternoon, 4 people were taken to hospital after a truck careered into a line of cars stopped at an intersection in Mayfield. An early model Falcon cannoned into a hatchback, trapping a young woman in the back seat. 3 women and a man were treated for minor injuries and shock.
A few words from the pros and these youngsters were ready to put it into practice. The 8 to 14-year-olds are using 3 days of their holidays to improve their batting, bowling and fielding for the summer of cricket ahead. And when wickets are hard to come by, you take everyone you can. But these children's aspirations don't stop at schoolyard cricket. They want to be just like their heroes.
Probably Mark Waugh, Michael Slater, Shane Warne, Craig McDermott.
The pace was a bit slower at Alder Park Bowling Club for the Ennis Young Consistency Final. Newcastle Jockey Club's Faye Craig and Nelson Bay's Betty Mainwaring had beaten the best in the district to qualify for the final. Points were awarded for the closest 3 bowls on each end. Faye Craig the most accurate on the day, winning 155 to 129. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Most of the damage took place within an hour from 8 o'clock this morning as strong northwesterly winds whipped up a fury. Residents from Singleton to Lake Macquarie reported flying debris, fallen trees and damage to houses. At Gateshead, a gum tree fell onto the roof of a flat. The 2 adults and young children inside at the time escaped harm. Nearly 20 state emergency crews were called out. The gale force winds lifted the roof from a block of flats at Warners Bay. It landed 20 metres away in a neighbour's yard.
Oh, it's just one hell of a bang, mate, and the next thing there was no roof there.
Close by, no one was hurt when a tree collapsed on top of this house. Crews worked frantically for hours to remove it. Shortland Electricity reported dozens of power blackouts. At Bennett's Green, strong gusts pushed over a power pole, bringing down wires and blocking peak hour traffic. At the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club, the windstorm severely damaged more than a dozen boats. A group of 10-metre yachts on trailers toppled like dominoes.
But it would seem as though maybe a couple of them have sustained very, very serious damage. I mean, I'm talking thousands of dollars worth of damage.
Nobbies recorded gusts peaking at 125 kilometres an hour. Shipping movements were delayed both in and out of Newcastle's harbour. The Weather Bureau says conditions will ease slowly over the weekend, although fresh to strong gusty winds are expected. Emergency crews are on full alert. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Middleby was back training with former teammate Warren Spink this morning after helping the young Socceroos advance to next year's World Youth Cup in Nigeria, scoring 7 goals in the qualifiers in Fiji. He was Australia's leading goal scorer with Mark Viduka, and since returning has received several offers to play in the National League, but is likely to play with Wollongong.
At the moment I think it is, a lot like Newcastle, so I think that's preferred option for me anyway at the moment.
Middleby learned of the Newcastle Breakers' demise while in Fiji. Bitterly disappointed, he's determined to return to Newcastle next season if the Breakers re-enter the National League.
Definitely. This is my hometown, and it's just a tragedy, I reckon, that Newcastle aren't in the competition still. I just feel sorry for all the younger kids around the place that haven't got really nothing to look at, nothing to look forward to.
Meantime, with the start of the season just 2 weeks away, Spink is still negotiating with a number of clubs, including Marconi.
It was a heartbreaking sight for teachers, students and parents of Swansea Primary School. Just after 4:30 this morning, fire tore through the school in Channel Street. One kindergarten classroom was completely gutted, 9 other rooms and storage areas severely damaged. In all, 2/3 of the school has been affected.
They'd have to be just devastated, especially the young kindy kids, and that is just such a loss. It's just such a waste. It's just incredible. It's just not fair.
Also destroyed were computers, children's work and teaching resources. The total cost, well over $250,000.
Many things that you're just not going to replace. We'd also put things into storerooms for the holiday period, and of course they've gone as well. The storerooms received a lot of damage.
A silent alarm detected the fire in the early hours of this morning. Within minutes, a security guard and fire officers were on scene. After extensive questioning, a 23-year-old Swansea man was today charged in relation to the fire. He'll face court on Monday. While students around the state will be returning from holidays this week, school at Swansea won't be back until at least Wednesday. Parents are being asked to keep their children at home. By Wednesday, demountable classrooms will cover the area behind me. While it will temporarily do the job, it could be 6 months before the school is totally rebuilt. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
searched the immediate area before raising the alarm. A full-scale search was mounted, but was hampered by choppy seas and poor visibility. Little hope was held for the man last night, and as each hour passed today, it became more likely that he wouldn't be found alive. Police say Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Today it was the Savernshire's turn to benefit from those in the city eager to help out. 12 trucks from Newcastle rolled in, transporting much needed water to farms in the area.
We're just going to go for broke now and continue working day and night. We have ample drivers who are going to take it in shift, and we'll carry on from there.
The precious cargo was put to immediate use, filling dams parched long ago.
Well, they're in desperate need of water at the moment because the dams are shrinking rapidly and they're left with silty, muddy bogs.
For those battling the drought, it's an uplifting gesture.
It just proves that the Australian ethos of helping one's mate is alive and well, and it's probably this ethos that the very fabric of Australian society was built upon.
Restocking the dams has temporarily eased the situation for farmers. It's also bought time in the fight against blue-green algae until Mother Nature can deliver the elusive rain. Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
Rucker's talks with Townsville have been described as part of the negotiating process by Falcons General Manager Paul Tynan. As one of the premier players in the league, Rucker is likely to be offered a lucrative deal with the Suns, but Falcons officials remain optimistic about retaining his services and are hopeful of negotiating a fresh contract on his return. Meantime, in rugby league, Newcastle hooker Robbie McCormack was last night named as the night's Player of the Year. It caps a remarkable season for McCormack, who on Thursday received the Players' Player Award. Darren Tracy won the Coaches' Award. And while Robert Finch and Malcolm Reilly continue discussions with several leading players in England, Russell Wire and Damien Driscoll have both gained amicable releases from the club. To motorsport and defending title holders, Sydney's Peter Finlay was one of the quickest in practice this morning for tomorrow's 36 Matara Hill Climb in Newcastle. Each of the 75 drivers was allowed 2 preliminary runs, some in testing conditions. Finlay recording a 44.55 second trip around the twisting 1.1 kilometre course. Tomorrow's racing starts at 9 a.m, each driver receiving at least 3 official runs. To cricket, and shortly before stumps on the opening day of the Newcastle First Grade Premiership, Lambton was 9 for 191 against Southern Lakes. Number 10 Greg Little top scoring with a fighting 50, Matt Hodges capturing 3 for 67 for Lakes.